If you like single track, you'll have come across situations where there's not enough space to do a very tight corner, or you need to do a U-turn. You can also hit logs that are at extreme angles with no run-up. Pivot turns are a very handy technique to have up your sleeve. If you have a trials bike, it will be much easier to learn the pivot turn on that first, then transfer the technique to your enduro bike. Done properly, you can actually turn around in less than the length of your bike. Long legs are definitely an advantage, but you can often use the terrain to your advantage if you're altitudinally challenged. Put a foot out to the side and approximately 1 foot ahead of the foot peg. If you have a choice, this works better turning left, as you can cover the rear brake in case you start to flip the bike. Release the clutch with a blip of the throttle and pull the bike into a wheelie. You need to pull back on the bars and also in the desired direction. Feather the clutch so the bike won't stall. You'll probably drop the bike when first learning pivot turns, so try finding a grassy, gentle uphill slope to learn on and just aim for small turns at first. As you progress, try this in figure 8 so you can do both directions well and eventually work up to 180-degree turns. Short legs. When in gnarly terrain, it's a huge help if you can find a rock or bank to stand on when making a pivot turn. If you watch enduro cross races, you'll frequently see riders using this technique when there's a 180-degree turn on big rocks. You can also use small rocks and other obstacles as kickers. Place the front wheel against them for extra lift as you do your pivot turn. Pivot turns on steep uphills. At key points of extreme enduros like Romaniacs and the Erzberg Rodeo, there'll be very steep hill climbs where the riders actually zigzag up the slopes. The pivot turn is commonly used by the top riders to swing the bike through 90 degrees and track back and forth across the slope. The technique is similar to what we've already described, but in this case you remain seated on the bike and towards the rear to maintain traction. Pivots are also a great way to cross logs when there's no run-up or room to tackle them head-on. Start with a small log and park your bike parallel. Place your inside foot on top of the log a few inches in front of your foot peg. Use the basic pivot turn technique we've mentioned and make sure everything happens in one fluid motion. You'll need to build up sufficient momentum for the bike to cross the log without needing too much traction on the log. Throttle control is important, especially when a log is wet and slippery, like this one. Not too much throttle, or she'll just wheel spin and you won't get across. You can also use your leg to help push the bike over when you are almost at the top. Don't worry if the bike doesn't make it over. Pull the bike back until the rear wheel has traction. Stand on the foot pegs with your body weight to the rear, then quickly release the clutch with a blip of the throttle to start a wheelie. Throw your body weight forward and back off the throttle to avoid wheel spin. Stuck on a ledge? You can use a pivot turn to get back down with minimum energy and time wasted. Simply pull back on the bars till the rear wheel is firmly planted, put one leg on the ground, then apply enough throttle and clutch to momentarily wheelie the bike and spin it off the obstacle. While rarely needed, floater turns are an advanced trials technique that definitely look cool on an enduro bike. In an extremely tight turn, there may be a vertical face or large obstacle that you can bounce the front wheel off in a way that it will help to spin the bike around.